Welcome back, Alpha Hunters. Hope you guys had a great week. Let's check out the markets. And this week's video is also going to be a little bit shorter, kind of like last week's video, mostly because everything in the market kind of looks similar. So we will check out some of the weekly and monthly views because we did close out the month of August. So we'll take a look at that. But let's dive into what kind of went on this week. As you can see from the last Friday's candle, huge selling came in. So it just kind of made sense. So we continued a little bit of that going into this week, and we did just see weakness day after day this week, even finishing this week on Friday a little bit weaker. So let's just take a look at the intraday price action. We were a little weak early on Monday. We traded right down to this nice little support line, had a bounce off of it, and then the end of the day, Monday, we started trading a little bit lower. Tuesday basically finished breaking through that support line, just didn't even wait, just kind of went right through it. And then chopped around for most of the rest of the day on Tuesday. Wednesday, we retested right into that support line and then just very slowly chopped down for the rest of the day. Thursday, nice little gap down on some, basically the U.S. government restricting certain semiconductor chips to be exported to Russia and China. So a lot of semiconductor stocks had a very bad day that day, and Nvidia definitely led the day lower in that regards, but we see that the market started to turn bullish towards the end of the day and continued into early Friday after the market responded positively after some payroll numbers that came out about an hour before the market opened, and we came right back into that blue line again, and then we just traded down for 2 hours in the middle of the day. And this one really kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't really see any news come out midday about this, but people just saw us not breaking above that line. And typically when you don't break above or below a support and resistance line in a meaningful time frame, usually you will reject off it and go in the other direction. That's pretty much what we did. And we even ended the day kind of weak, broke down at the end of the day, but the last 15 minutes kind of just got bought up a little bit. So yeah, it's still pretty weak out there. Most of the market looks like this. Most of the stocks out there look like this. Even the Qs very much look like this. Tech sector was really hit this week. Apple was hit this week. So yeah, nothing looks too different from how the market looks. But let's just go and take a look at some look at the MACD and RSIs. Just kind of get an idea of really kind of how the market's starting to shape up here. So obviously you see the RSI kind of coming into the oversold area here a little bit, or at least maybe on the near term. So I wouldn't expect too much extreme bearishness, maybe kind of going forward here over the next week or two. I expect a little bit of a consolidation, probably push higher a little bit, maybe even retest up into 412, probably into 405. So somewhere in the 405 to 412 area makes a lot of sense to me. And then probably just roll over probably in the second half of September. But I do expect a bounce here, at least on the near term, before we start going back lower on the bearish side. And if we look at the weekly time frame, nice little hump here on the histogram for the MACD. But really all that is a divergence pattern where you have a higher high on the histogram, but you have a lower high on prices. So not exactly a good sign to see there. And you also see it right here on the RSI as well, stochastics, where you get a little bit of a higher high kind of action kind of coming in there. So definitely be a little bit more cautious, but I expect some choppiness to probably come in here for at least a week or 2 or 3, something like that. For most of probably September until we get to the back half of September, maybe we see some selling or continued selling that kind of comes back in. But let's check out that monthly action, as we did close a monthly candle for August, and really it was not too bad up until those last 4 days, and we'll take a look at that. But really, I mean, if you just look at it, nice little upper wick here with a shaved bottom. So typically that's a pretty bearish reading, and let's see if I can get rid of all that stuff. So yeah, you can see it pretty clearly there. Nice little upper wick with a very nice shaved bottom. So I expect a little bit more of a retest before we probably roll back over on the SPY. Just kind of makes a lot of sense to me. But if we go back to that daily time frame, we can definitely see that, just going from the end of July and going to the high that we had in August, we went up 4.8%. and we closed the month down 4%. Okay. So 4.8% up to 4% down. And what's interesting, if we just look here at the last 4 days, so I'll go to where we got the high of last Friday. We were up almost 2%. Okay. And then we went down roughly that 4.6%. So 6% of the total 8 to 9% move of the month was in the last 4 days. So that just kind of lets you know how much the narrative for August was really driven in those last 4 days. Yeah, not exactly the biggest bullish indication there, but just to continue to expect to see market weakness. But what I would expect to see here over the market for at least the next couple of weeks is rotation. Rotation is going to be a key word probably here for the next couple of weeks. People are going to try to get out of things that are not going to do as well going forward. Now that the Fed last Friday kind of gave us what they are going to do, and they are going to full on crush inflation. That's what their narrative was last week, and that's what their narrative really has been pretty much all year. Okay, so we can expect to see a good rotation out of stocks that are not going to do well in that environment. And people are going to rotate into stocks that are going to be a little bit more defensive. So definitely look for probably the market to trade a little bit higher here, be a little bit choppy, something like this, and probably just makes it way up into here and then it starts to roll back over. But definitely going to want to watch how certain stocks and certain sectors across the industries, across the marketplace, really just perform. A lot of stocks aren't going to see a strong bounce. Some stocks are going to see a stronger bounce. That's just going to let you know where money is flowing into and out of. A lot of what we've seen really since the beginning of last Friday has really just been everybody getting out of the market, and everybody's being in shock of what the Fed said. And it's been everybody going in one direction. So I would expect a little bit of a pause here as far as everybody selling out of the market and start to see that rotation kind of go on in the marketplace of people wanting to be in certain stocks and be out of others. So be very mindful of what kind of stocks perform and outperform and underperform here really over the next few weeks. Okay. But really nothing different on the Qs front. The Qs have just been a little bit weaker. Expect the same kind of thing. I don't really know how high the Qs will push. They have been beaten up pretty good, but you can also expect to see them probably maybe even bounce better than the SPY. But it's just kind of a hard judge to kind of make. We'll just have to see what the SPY looks like when they bounce and what the Qs look like when it bounces, and just kind of see what that rotation kind of looks like. So let's take a look at the dollar. We'll take a look at a few things here. So the dollar continued to consolidate the beginning part of this week. And then yesterday, Thursday, it had a very nice, finally broke above that July high that it had. And it finally held, right? Back on Monday, it actually broke above it, but it didn't hold. Continued to consolidate Tuesday, Wednesday. Finally broke above it Thursday. And then we have a very nice, long, lower wick, bearish candle, red candle kind of coming in. This is usually a very bullish sign for whatever chart pattern you're looking at. So expect the DXY, the dollar index, to continue to push higher. That sets up very bullish. If we look at the 10-year rates, we saw a very nice continued grind higher Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then a very solid pop on Thursday. A little bit of selling, then a little bit of bearishness kind of come in on rates. Then on Friday, but I wouldn't expect this to be a major trend changer. Probably just retest a little bit lower, maybe even gets down here lower to the top of this wick around the 3.15 area. Probably comes in, finds the 10 exponential moving average, and continues pushing higher. But I would not expect this to be a major turning over and being a bearish moment. As far as the GLD, at least the GLD, the gold futures didn't actually make out the way the GLD did. The GLD actually broke its July lows on Thursday and had a very nice responsive day back up bullish. At least the GLD looking probably a little bit better with that little breakdown that it had on Thursday from that July low and a little bounce back on Friday. So we'll have to see if that kind of continues to hold, because you don't see that same chart pattern on the gold futures. So if we look at the gold futures, you can see Thursday, nice little lower wick here, but it didn't break those July low numbers. And this just has to do with the way commodities kind of work from one contract month to another contract month. I'm not going to go into all that, but just kind of know that a little bit of a decoupling there. And then the HYG, and we definitely saw the high yield corporate bonds continue to be bearish this week. Nice little bullish activity for Thursday and into Friday morning session. And then, yeah, the bearishness kind of came in. It looks very much like the stock market. So a lot of things that ties to the stock market or look like the stock market are going to have these kind of patterns. Very long bearish candle from last Friday, just kind of choppy down. Nice little gap up on Friday morning, then selling that kind of came in. So yeah, it's definitely looking very similar across a lot of different things. You know, it's one of those things we need to see what the consolidation, little retest action looks like on the stock market before start to look at, you know, what stocks to potentially be bearish on, be bullish on, and that kind of stuff. So those are the things you're going to want to watch for as we see some kind of consolidation or retest on the marketplace, okay? But make no mistakes about it. If we do get a retest, a lot of people are going to be like, hey, is this the bottom? And are like we going back into the bullish direction? I wouldn't think so. I'm not thinking so, especially like this morning. You know, we had a nice little gap up and it didn't hold. Like we sold down pretty good. So people are going to continue to sell any kind of pops and rips that we kind of get. And, you know, as we come higher or we just trade in a channel sideways here. So just be mindful of that and don't think that we're going to be like on a new bull run or anything like that. So have a great weekend. Alrighty, take care, Alpha Hunters.